this Remembrance Sunday, we gather for the purpose of remembering and giving thanks for those approximately 70,000 Canadian soldiers who died in the First World War, the 44,198 who died in the Second World War, and the 516 who died in the Korean conflict. And also to remember all those who have suffered and sacrificed as a result of those conflicts, and to remember and give thanks for all who have died, suffered, or sacrificed in armed conflict on behalf of our nation since the Korean War. That last part changes the nature of Remembrance Day in a powerful and significant way for me. Remembrance Day has always been a most profound and moving event in my life, but to be honest, it has always been an event that concerned the generation of my parents or my grandparents. But today, if we are to remember properly those who have suffered and died since the Korean War, that involves the 133 Canadian soldiers who have died in Afghanistan and the over 2,500 Canadian soldiers who are deployed there at this time as a part of the International Security Assistance Force under the overarching umbrella of Operation Enduring Freedom, and specifically within the Canadian campaigns of Operation Athena and Operation Archer. Remembrance Day is no longer history, but rather daily news. It is not the remembrance of things that happened for past generations, but the present reality of watching the news coverage of the hearses rolling down the highway of heroes. And for me, knowing that the people carried in those hearses are not my grandparents or parents' generation or even my own, but rather my children's generation. And I find that tremendously difficult. In all the years that I have led Remembrance Day services in schools and libraries and town centers, little children have gathered around to remember, and we realize they really don't have a clue what it is all about. And at many of those services, a line of veterans from the Second World War would stand with rifles and at the appropriate time would release a volley of gunfire that would make the children shout or jump or sometimes laugh in response to experiencing something so strange for them. And at all of those events, I recall looking at the children who were 5 or 6 years old and then praying, Lord, I hope that these children will never have to experience the sound of gunfire except as a ceremonial event at Remembrance Day. But now I realize very keenly that many of those little children for whom I prayed are today on the field of battle in Afghanistan, surrounded by the sound of gunfire, and so that prayer was not answered in the way that I wanted. Another very strange change in the nature of Remembrance Day is the nature of the war that we are fighting in Afghanistan. It may have many things at its foundation, but to a significant extent, it is a war over religion. And when I say that, I want to be very careful. It would be more accurate to say it is a war being fought over the perversion and the misinterpretation of religion. The Canadian government states that our purpose in Afghanistan at this time is threefold. Firstly, to defend Canadian national interests. Secondly, to establish Canada as a leader in world affairs. And thirdly, to rebuild the nation of Afghanistan. Just a comment on two of those, in particular, with the need we have to defend our national security. That, of course, refers to our desire to fight against the proliferation of terrorism at its very root. That makes some reference to the fact that the war in Afghanistan, to a certain extent, is a war with Al-Qaeda. Whether or not it is effective to strike in Afghanistan with respect to Al-Qaeda is questionable. And just so that you understand, Al-Qaeda is a radical, fundamentalist, Islamist organization started in or around 1990 by Osama bin Laden. It is international in scope. It has cells in countries all around the globe. The name Al-Qaeda means base or foundation.